Hormones rule. I have always thought that if you know what's wrong, you can fix it. Symptoms are just flashing red lights on the physiology of your dashboard. They're just a symptom of what's wrong. They're not the root cause of what's wrong. If you understand what's wrong, you can fix it. So for many years, I was growing multiple tumors. I had to have a nephrectomy, get my kidney removed. You know, that's what allopathic medicine does. You have a tumor in an organ, so they whip it out. I lost a contiguous adrenal gland. I lost a parathyroid, my thyroid, etc. So at that point in my life, even functional medicine doctors would listen to my case and they would go, "You're too complex for me." And I remember one time I would go to oncologists, endocrinologists, because I had so many cancers. A well-intentioned endocrinologist put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Devaki, if life is a book, the first half of your book is joy and hope. That part of your book is closed. You're in the part of your book where you're going to have to age gracefully. Just suck it up. You're in the second half of your book of life." But I have learned never take old or ill for an answer, but you have to really know what's wrong to be able to fix it. So at that time, I was writing a book on endocrine disruption. I published this book 17 years ago and started research on it 6 years prior. I'd read an article that pollutants in our air, food, and water were able to get into our bodies and hijack our internal signaling systems and possibly futz with our reproductive milestones, which is very significant for the human race. So I arduously dove in to do research on that. I had 3 feet of papers and research in my office I had to wade through to get to my desk. Based on that book, I was invited to be a scholar at an estrogen think tank associated with the university and the med school because John McLaughlin, who's world famous as the #1 scientist in estrogen, called me up on the phone. He's so cool. And he said, "Devaki, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse." And we laughed and giggled on the phone, and that was cemented our friendship, and we've been close friends ever since. And I had the honor, one of the biggest honors of my life, to work at that think tank with all of the major scientists. So while I was doing research, 6 years of research for hormone deception, because it was not a household term back then, I noticed that the model compound to compare estrogen-like activity of external environmental pollutants like plastics that you put your food comes shrunk wrapped in, or you microwave in your home microwave, or your children are crawling around on vinyl floors, laminate floors, and being exposed to outgassing, or outgassing from the stains on your cabinets, and etc. And what comes in on the bottom of your shoes into your home and can be found in a few minutes up into your bedrooms that are potentially endocrine disruptors. Everything is tested in the beginning against this most powerful synthetic estrogen ever made called diethylstilbestrol. The acronym is DES. So they exposed pregnant rodents to this, and then they followed the first and the second generations because it has what they've now found transgenerational effects. But what was the shocker was that in these original DES studies, I would see that the first and second generations, oh my God, they had this tumor, I had that tumor. They had this tumor, I had that tumor. They had this adenomyosis, endometriosis, cyst formation, malformation, etc. I had everything that was in the animals of the phenomena that I was writing about. So I thought, OMG, I've got to write away from my mother's microfiche films and see if I can get them. So I wrote away to Michael Reese Hospital in Chicago, and I got the microfiche films just, I swear, a few months before they were going to shred them because I'm older and my mother's so older. And I discovered that my mother, while pregnant with me in the first trimester, which is the most vulnerable, there's different windows of vulnerability, was given 2 delivery modes of DES. She was given it by injection and also given it by oral prescription. So I had a hefty walloping dose. So I was a victim of the very phenomena that I was writing to inform the public about. But I know that if you could figure out what's wrong, you can fix it. So the thing then was uppermost in my mind: how is DES? What are the underlying mechanisms that are initiating the first few steps of carcinogenesis, or cancer formation? So I discovered in my research and from hanging out with all these scientific dudes over at Tulane that DES damaged 2 genes that we have in our body to act like surveillance scopes, periscopes, to always be on the lookout for tumor cells that once you find them, you can attack them and stop them. But DES daughters and sons, on the whole, have damaged a P54 and Wnt tumor suppressor genes, and thus we have a higher incidence of cancers throughout our life. So that was the mechanism. That was knowing what was wrong. Now I had to fix it. So then I further sleuthed, which no one else had done before, but it was really hitting home for me, because I wanted to be well. I wanted to be vibrant. I was doing everything right, eating well, exercising, living passionately, loving Earth, being grateful, and I was ill. So I discovered that there were end metabolites of estradiol that had non-estrogenic activity. Because I had breast cancer, no one would ever give me a hormone. They would say I wasn't a candidate. But that's because hormones are much more complex than most physicians know. Hormones deliver their messages to proteins in the shape of a satellite dish, and estrogen happens to have about 12 to 14 known receptors, and when they're signaled, they have diverse actions, and we're learning more and more receptors all the time. There's 60 estrogenic-like molecules inside the human body, so the three major ones that we think aren't the only show in town. So I discovered which safe for myself, because I had breast cancer, hormone-like protocols might reboot, or you could say reconstitute, the functionality of those tumor suppressor genes. So I had a compounding pharmacy make the very first hormone protocol for myself, because I wanted to be well, and I thought that this might be a way to fix the cause that I had figured out. And I also discovered foods that could boost endogenous production, meaning your own body could make these metabolites, if enough other things that are beyond the scope of this, methylation, phosphorylation, you know, all these polysyllabic terms that are fun to say, and some guys think they're sexy. Anyhow, lo and behold, by using the safe application of strategic hormonal protocols that nobody else had ever used before, I stopped the tumor madness. And that was almost 20 years ago. I mean, this is really significant. I understand truly what supreme suffering is. It's one planet. It's a different lifetime. And now when I'm older and most of my colleagues are retiring or getting dementia and cancer or dying, I'm discovering youth. And I know what true, honestly, supreme wellness feels like. Another planet. I'd rather be a citizen of this planet. And I am. I didn't have youth in the beginning, and now I'm able to soar with my youth at a time when other people are parking their van against the curb, not for halftime, but for end time. But that's not the story for me. But I had to figure out what was wrong, and then I had to fix it. So I know supremely how much hormones rule. And I have so much to share with you, because over the last 15 years, I've had the honor to caretake a number of forward-thinking patients that also wanted this application. And I now see that safe strategic hormonal protocols can be used not just for older men and women in andropause and menopause, but it can be used in short stints to treat what we thought were non-treatable illnesses. I've become, in essence, the queen of reversing the irreversible. We can use hormone-safe therapies, individualized for boys and girls and teenagers, and young adults, not just for older people, for interstitial cystitis, for inflammatory bowel disease, including Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. We've even been reversing gastroparesis, which is a paralysis of the musculature of the stomach and often thought to be irreversible. All that medicine says is eat less and make it mushier. And within a few days, I have discovered in 46 years of practice that the body is designed to heal. If you figure out what's wrong, and there could be a constellation of things that are going wrong, and fix them. And it's such an honor and such an important caretaking. I think of this, since I couldn't have children from the DES, my books and my knowledge are like my children, to caretake this beautiful information that there is a world of application of hormonal interventions that are just not about removing, reducing, and living better with symptoms as you age. And that is a lot of what I want to share with you. I had one of the first books out on the mind-body nutrition connection called Healthy Digestion in the Natural Way. Wiley published that. And I have a second new book coming out where I'm introducing a new field called Nutritional Gastroenterology, which is a 600-page treatise And believe me, if I could still be well and vibrant after writing that, my hormones are working for me to work for you. And this book shows the intimate role of hormones in the gut with strategic hormone strategies for your practitioner and smart patients to apply. I bet you didn't know that out of Japanese laboratories, we're now learning that the stomach cell, the parietal cell, that produces hydrochloric acid, that has such an array of benefits on the body, and regular allopathic medicine, even gastroenterology, doesn't usually assess parietal cell efficiency. Those cells are very robust in aromatase genes. Those are the genes that help make estrogen. Why? Because the stomach produces estrogen, sometimes in the amount similar to the ovaries, and that gets shunted via the portal vein to the gallbladder and the liver that help you detox. And when that isn't working right, sometimes even your best efforts at detox aren't working right. OMG, there's so much great information in here. And the bottom line is to really help you, because I have a better second half of my life than I did in my first, which is a dyslexic experience of most people on the planet. My name is Dr. Devaki Lindsay Berkson. I am a hormone scholar, and I'm here to tell you that hormones rule, and they lean on nutrients, which lean on the microbiome and the microgendrome. So come join me into a wonderful new world of understanding hormones. Look for my brand new book, Sexy Brain, on the neurobiology of intimacy and how our outer environment is assaulting our intimacy. Nature never does anything without a reason. She put pleasure into sex to keep your brain better so you'll be a more stable adult, to have a safer family. Everything's about the next generation. And then my next book, Nutritional Gastroenterology, with a certified course for practitioners. And I have a vision. You know, I've been here so long. I've lived so long. I've been in functional medicine since its early beginning. I am one of the thought leaders, and so I want to contribute to your thoughts and your life. So thank you very much for this time. Have a great hormonal day. May the hormonal force be with you. Hormones rule. Bye.